Hi guys, today we're going to be going over how to set up VS Code to work with a remote server. So a quick example of what we're going to end up doing is right here. So basically this right here is VS Code connected to a remote server via SSH, and the coolest thing about this is I can kind of run my whole app here. In this case, we have a React app, and VS Code will automatically proxy the localhost from my server back to my computer. So this right here is actually running on my whatever VPS I'm using, and we have it. We have the ability to connect locally to it. Any change we make right here would actually go ahead and reflect automatically, which is pretty amazing. So let me go ahead and show you guys how to set this up. It's not hard at all. The first thing we're gonna need to do is just set up some or SSH keys, and then after that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a VPS server where we're gonna run this, and then we'll do a little bit of configuration, and we'll be removing our root access, or we'll be adding a new user, so we don't have to use the root user for this because that's not the greatest idea. And setting up some other SSH stuff, which is really gonna be what's gonna take the bulk of this. So, anyways, let's really quickly head over to setting up our SSH keys. So, setting up SSH keys is not the most difficult thing in the world. Um, basically, basically, what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to generate them. So the best thing to do is generate them for the specific use case that you have. You can get by with having just one, and you can kind of use it for a lot of different things, but having multiple ones that are specific to something, it's a little bit more secure, right? Because if you ever lose access to your public one, you're kind of screwed for every service you signed up with that one single one. So we're gonna make one for a remote SSH machine. Um, so I should already have one of this one, so I wonder what happens if I create it again. So we'll go ahead and generate this. Yeah, it already exists. We're just gonna override it for the time being. Doesn't matter. I don't need a passphrase. So cool. That has been generated. So if I go now to that folder, we can see that it's here. We have the public, the .public, and we have the one that's our private, which doesn't have the .public ending to it. So now that we have that, let's actually grab the public one, because we're going to need to configure DigitalOcean with it, which is actually the provider we're going to be using for our remote server. So let's go ahead and grab that public key. And typing while people are looking is hard, so make sure you have the public one, and all you gotta do is kind of copy and paste it. So we'll go back to here. We already have this kind of set up. So I recommend using DigitalOcean. It's a little bit simpler to use. So what you want to use is go over here to our security and set up our key. That way everything's kind of set up out of the box. I'm just gonna edit the one I have already. Boom. Save SSH key. Cool. So my key was updated successfully. So what I want to do now is create a server. It shouldn't take long. So we're gonna make a new droplet. And you have many different options to pick here. The one I like picking is going to be the $15 one with 2 CPUs and 2 CPUs and 2 gigs of RAM. Anything less than 2 gigs of RAM is gonna be pretty slow. Or not pretty slow, you'll probably run out of memory and have to set up your swap file. So cool thing about DigitalOcean is it gives us access to set up which key we want to use. In this case, we're going to use VS Remote, which we already have, and just create it. There's a couple more options if you really want to use this long term. Obviously, set this up properly, but this is just going to be kind of like a quick sample thing we're doing here. This can take a while. Sometimes it can be sometimes really fast, so it kind of sucks when it takes a while. Any day now, we'll get to it. Cool, we have this set up. So we just want to make sure we can actually log into our server and kind of do a little bit more setup before we actually get back to VS Code and setting everything up. So let's go back to a terminal. Cool, so what we want to do is we want to SSH into it. And since we already set up our keys, we should have access to it automatically. So right now we're going to log in as root, and we're going to make a user so we don't have to keep using root, right? Because that's not super secure. And there's more security stuff to this than just this, but this would get you started. Cool, we're in. So this is our actual server that's actually running. So what we want to do now is Whoop. Did not need to press that. So what we want to do now is we're actually going to go ahead and set up a new user. So uh, to set up a new user, what you have to do is just say add user and then the name of the user. In this case, I'm just going to add myself as a user, and we're going to pick a password. Whatever. Wait. Cool. So now we have that user set up. Um, and next thing we're going to do is we actually need this user to be able to do super user do commands or sudo commands. So what we need to do is add them to that user group. So user mod at group sudo German, and that will actually add us to that group. And then we just have to test it out, right? So we're going to go ahead and log in as me. Boom. Now we're logged in as German. And we'll make sure we can issue a super user command. In this case, let's do super user do ls -a, so hidden files, and we're going to look in the root, which will normally give us a permission error. So sweet, it worked. Cool. So next thing we want to do is, if we want it now to log in as German to this server, we actually don't have authentication keys set up for this. So we actually do not have a SSH folder set up yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to set one up, and we're going to copy our public key there. So so let me not make sure I don't mess this up. So we're going to make there. You want to SSH directory, and now with BIM, I like using BIM, we're going to make one called authorization keys. So this is the keys that are actually allowed in here. Using BIM is not hard. It can be scary in the beginning, but we're going to need to get our actual key that we had. So the key that we're using to connect the public key. So if we just go back to our actual host machine or actual machine, we just need to get that key again, which is going to be right here. Why are you like this? Oh, haha, I had the wrong path. Cool. And it was this one. Cool. Copy and paste, go back here, paste it. And if you ever want to know how to escape Vim, it's just escape colon right quit, because we're just quitting, writing and quitting. Cool, so that's set up. And cool, that should actually be fully set up. Or I actually did something wrong. I actually put it in the wrong place. So we need to move this around. So authorization keys, and we're gonna move it into the SSH dash authorization keys. Cool. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna log out of the server and try logging in as myself, and it should work. So log out. Cool. So now if I log back in as German, I should be able to log in. Oh gosh, I probably did something wrong. Let's see. I have my money that I set up the keys wrong. I tend to do that a lot. Or I named it wrong. Authorized keys. Oh my gosh. Okay, that happens more often than it should. Authorized keys, CD. Authorization keys. That's why. All right. So to rename stuff in Linux is just move again. So we're basically moving that over and overwriting it. So it's what was it? Authorized keys. So I'm just gonna grab this guy over here and copy and paste them. Cool. Now if I log out, it should actually work. If I can type. Cool. And we should be in. Cool, we're actually in now as myself. So cool. Next thing we're gonna do is actually set up VS Code, since we have everything that we need. We'll still need this key. Well, actually no, we won't need this key anymore in just a second. So let's hide this away, and let's go back to VS Code. So what you're gonna want to do in VS Code is download the SSH remote. So just type in remote on your extensions, and you'll have different options. You have the Windows Linux subsystem or subsystem Linux, which I personally don't like, or you can log into actual containers, but we want the SSH one. After you have that set up, you can easily just do Control P, and then little alligator arrow, and then you can select connect to host or open configuration file or things like that. In this case, we want to open to configuration file, and we actually need to set up a new one, right? So specify custom configuration file. Actually, let's not do this one. Connect to host actually would be one, and we're gonna select a new SSH host. Um, enter SSH connection. So SSH at whatever my IP address for the other one was. If we go back to DigitalOcean, we can pick it up real quick. Boom. Okay, so now we actually need to select our configuration file, which we need to specify where it's going to be. Let's give this a try. Cool, and we're connected now to our virtual machine, or not a virtual machine. Yeah, you can call it a virtual machine. So cool, we're now connected here. And if we open the terminal, yep, that's what we have. Basically, the machine we asked for, right? We have 2 cores and we have 2 gigs of RAM. So now let's actually go ahead and set up a let's actually go ahead and talk about setting up Node and all that other stuff. So the easiest way to do that, get Node in this machine, because basically that's what we're gonna need. Is going to be to use MVM, which is Node version manager. So just going to this GitHub page and installing it. It's gonna be the easiest way to go. So let's go ahead and quit out of this. Clear. It'll get installed, and then it automatically adds in the path, although you won't see it. So you actually have to source your bash file. So if you're using bash, it'll automatically add it for you. So source, which is kind of reloads the configuration file for you. So we're actually using bash rc. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm not used to just the default terminal. So now we have this. Cool, and then we can just set up npm install first. And we want Node 12. I think that's the latest version, right? Let's actually look that up real quick. Which one is LTS? 12. Cool. So that's what we're going to be using. So actually, don't need you anymore. Other window. Node 12. So it's going to go ahead and install Node 12 for us, which is going to be LTS. It's going to be pretty quick. And then now it's using that one by default, right? Just double check. Cool. So I guess the best example here we can use is just to set up a React application, so we know everything is working, and we can actually access it via our host machine. So best way to set up one is with npx, which allows you to use CLI ones without having to actually install them globally. I think it's pretty cool that way. Actually, this is not the page we want. We want this one. We're doing this all live, and call it my app. Cool. So we can actually go ahead and sit back while this installs. Oh, finally. So it finally finished. It took a while. Obviously, create React app has never been the fastest thing in the world. So what we can do now that we have that folder created is just simply open it on our editor. So where we stored it, we literally just chucked it in our root directory. So we can just go ahead and open the app. No, not open this folder. Why are you being like this? Oh, show local. Haha. So, okay. Cool. So now we're actually inside. Again, this file, this is just mounted to the file system inside our droplet or DigitalOcean droplet. Yeah. So basically, we have everything here, and we still know we're connected by looking down here, and we can just open the terminal, or just do our npm scripts, and it should actually load. So yeah, you can use your terminal or just kind of use the sidebar. It's pretty cool because you can actually manage everything from here. In this case, I prefer using my terminal, so we're going to do npm start, and it'll build. And the coolest thing here is that we can easily go ahead and connect using our local machine, right? Because it'll proxy the connection for us. Again, this is usually not the fastest thing in the world, depending on the amount of resources that you give your computer or your machine. So in this case, we're back to localhost 3000, which you actually want to click here and follow the link because it's not going to be localhost 3000 on your local machine. So we'll do this, open in another window, but ta-da, we're actually connected. Obviously, it's a completely different port, but it got proxied back, which is the coolest thing and best thing to use this for. Um, so yeah, that's setting up remote VS Code. Um, Let me know if you liked it.